welcome back to another episode of En Familia con la Plaza. My name is Miss Liz and I'm the Education Assistant here at la Plaza de Cultura y Artes. This month, La Plaza is celebrating 5 de Mayo, which commemorates La Batalla de Puebla. Today you're joining us on our last episode for our 5 de Mayo series. Today, we will be creating our own marching scene that places you in the middle of the scene advocating for a cause that you feel passionate about. Let's go ahead and get started. The year is 1862, and France decides to invade Mexico because the emperor of the time, Napoleon III, wanted to replace the newly elected democratic government of Presidente Benito Juárez with a monarchy. During this time, the French army was one of the strongest, and they knew that they had a good chance of intervening in Mexico's affairs. However, on May 5, 1862, the Mexican army defeated the French army in a battle fought at the city of Puebla in Puebla, Mexico. When Mexicanos in California got wind of the news, they celebrated the victory of the Mexican army. Inspired by what had occurred, Mexicanos, or Latinos, in California wanted to show their support and quickly formed unions called Juntas, Patróticas to help raise funds for weaponry and supplies. A year later, in 1863, the Mexican army and the French army fought again, but this time Mexico was defeated. Many Mexicanos in California felt that the French now had a good chance of winning the war. A woman named Francisca Manso de Cavazos, of Mexican origin and living in Los Angeles, California, saw an opportunity where women could help unify people in defeating the French army. She realized that there was a large population of Mexican women living in California, and if every one of them contributed a small amount, it would go a very long way. This would help support most of the most affected by the war, like those needing medical attention, food, and housing. On June 28, 1863, she held a meeting to form a women-led community organization called La Junta Patrótica de Señoras de Los Ángeles. This junta was similar to other assemblies, except this one was run by Latinas and children. Shortly after, women and children in other communities began to follow suit, and by 1866, there were a total of 7 juntas in California. By 1867, the French army retreated, and Mexico was free to continue its democratic form of government under Presidente Benito Juárez. Right? Now that we have learned a little bit about Juntas Patróticas, we're now going to transition to our art workshop. As we learned, Latinas in California formed Juntas Patróticas de Señoras that held meetings to help raise money for wounded warriors and their families in Mexico. There are many ways people have come together in the past to show support for a cause. One of these ways is through marches. I am now going to walk you through the creation of your very own parade or marching scene. I am now going to turn on my overhead camera. For this activity, you're going to need the following materials: One is page 1 and page 2 of these student handouts that can be found in the link that I'm going to share, which is under our website under Educator Resources for today's webinar. I'm gonna go ahead and insert that link into the chat for those of us joining us today who may want to access these handouts. So the first thing you're gonna need are handout 1 and handout 2 from our Educator Resources. A sheet of paper. I'm going to be using a white sheet of paper today. You're also going to need a pair of scissors like this one, a pencil, some glue. I'm going to be using liquid glue, but you could use a glue stick or whatever you have on hand. And some coloring materials. Today I have brought some color pencils and a sharpener just to make sure that those are sharp. And I also have some drawing pens because I'm going to be writing some words today. All right. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to print out the student handouts 1 and 2. And you're going to go ahead and color them in. Keep in mind that the handout with the women and the flags and the bag of money is going to be cut out. So that one you don't have to stay within the lines or anything like that. But to save us some time, I have actually gone ahead and started coloring these in. I'm gonna show you what they look like. Once you printed them out, you color them in, and then we're gonna cut them out. So here I have my marching scene already already colored in. And as we can see in this scene, we see a crowd of people gathered behind 2 women and a man, and then we see a figure of another man on this flag. This person right here is President Benito Juarez, and that was the president of Mexico at this time. And that's why he appears in this sign or banner. I have also gone ahead and colored in the images that I'm going to be using for my scene today. So I decided to color in the Mexican flag and these 2 young children on the bottom as well. You can use all of them. I'm just going to be using these 3 for today because I'm going to be doing something a little different. If you notice here, the Mexican flag appears backwards. It's usually green, white, and red, but since it's hanging and the escudo or the eagle is backwards, then the colors are backwards. So next, after you've gone ahead and colored in your figures that you're going to be using for your marching scene, you're going to use your scissors and you're going to cut them out like so. If you have any hard time using your scissors, or you don't have any scissors available, you can always reach out to an adult to help you out with this step. If you need a little help with cutting figures out, and they will help you out. And you're gonna cut them out like so. Right. There are the children that I decided to cut out, and I'm also going to be using this flag over here, the Mexican flag. Right? Be careful with your fingers as you cut these figures out. So I have my two figures that I'm going to be using in this scene, but I'm not going to glue them down just yet. And that is because I also want to add myself into the scene. And we're gonna do that by using that sheet of paper. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this and move it to the side for a second. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that sheet of paper, and you're going to actually draw yourself into that scene. So we're gonna draw ourselves, color ourselves in, and then add us to that marching scene. Now, before we begin, I want you to take a look one more time at this marching scene. Take a look at the clothing that the people are wearing. This clothing is an indication of the era that this moment took place in. This style of clothing, if I'm not mistaken, is known as Victorian era type of clothing. So if, let's say, you're placing yourself into the scene, which I am today, I have to think about what kind of clothes I would be wearing. How would my hair be styled? Let's take a look one more time. Look at their hairstyles. The clothing that they're wearing. Today I'm wearing a leather jacket, which is a very different style from the 1800s. With that in mind, you're going to start sketching yourself in that era. So I have kind of started a little bit, and I'll show you how far I've gotten. So here, I drew a face, and I put my hair up in a bun. I have started to draft a dress in the similar style of the Victorian era that we were looking at. I would most likely be wearing something that's high neck. My hair would most likely be up, like I mentioned, in a bun. I'm gonna keep my center part because I like to style my hair like that. And I most likely would be wearing a dress during this time. I'm gonna go ahead and start kind of sketching myself. And what I would look like in this scene. Zapatos. Oops. Most likely I'm wearing some kind of boots or botines. All right. I probably have some kind of layer on top of my arms to make them look more puffy. Most likely I'm wearing a long sleeve dress. And then once you kind of have a silhouette of or a sketch of what you're wearing during that era, I want you to think about the scene. Let's go ahead and bring it back on screen. This is a marching scene. We can see people are gathered and they're most likely marching for a cause. Like we learned today, Juntas Patróticas would hold meetings or juntas to advocate or raise funds for a cause. In that time, it was for Mexico and for all the efforts, all the war efforts at that time. Now, but there are different ways you can help support a cause. One of them, like we mentioned, is money, raising funds. Another one is through marches. But what about if you don't want to march or you want to help in another way? Another way you can help for a cause, raise awareness to a cause, is by getting people to sign a petition. So here I am. I'm going to draw myself holding a piece of paper, and I'm going to go around in this scene and ask for signatures. All right. So I'm going to draw my sleeve here, ending here, my mano like this, holding this petition. Maybe I should make it a little bigger. Looks like they like that. There's my sleeve. All right, and I'm trying to get people to sign petitions. Sign this petition that I'm advocating for. All right, and once you have drawn yourself in that marching scene, wearing that clothing of the era, styling your hair with your hairstyle according to the era, and kind of showing what you're contributing to that march. Myself, I'm contributing a petition. You can go ahead and start coloring yourself in. I'm gonna go ahead and start doing that. And like I mentioned today, I'm going to be using some color pencils and some scissors to cut myself out. All right, so here we go. We're gonna color ourselves in. My sleeve. I'm gonna be adding some blue details. These are my favorite colors, blue and pink. Okay. And some details to my attire. I'll be wearing some brown shoes, some brown botas. And then you can also use your eraser to get rid of any unwanted lines that you don't want appearing on your drawing during this time. I'm going to color in my hair. Ojos, mis cejas, my nose, my boca. And then I'm going to color in myself. And I'm going to use my black color pencil to go ahead and outline my drawing. If you have a marker, you can use that. Or if you want to just leave it as is, you can. Because I really want to show the details my dress and attire. Great. And there we have it. Once you are done with your drawing, you're going to go ahead and cut it out. So here I go. I'm going to cut myself out. I'm going to add myself to that marching scene. This is a time for you to think about a cause that you feel strongly about. How would you draw yourself into this scene? right? I have now cut my figure out. And I'm going to bring back that marching scene. And you can also bring in the figures that you cut out earlier. So here, because I'm trying to stay within the time of this scene, I'm going to go ahead and also add that Mexican flag coming out of the crowd. Maybe back here, or maybe to the side. I want to see it represented. Maybe out here, maybe like this, so it doesn't block any of my figures. And your figures or your icons or drawings can go ahead and stick out of the paper as well, as long as they're attached to the sides. So I'm gonna go ahead and start gluing them down once I've arranged how I want them, and I think I want my flag there. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a couple of dots of glue, being very careful so it doesn't smear. I'm gonna add that right over here like this. Right there. And I also colored in these two children, and I'm going to add them to the forefront right over here. Maybe coming into the scene like this. Yeah, I think I like that. So I'm gonna add some glue, like so. And I'm gonna go ahead and glue. And now I'm going to go ahead and add the figure that I drew off to the side right here. And I'm coming and I'm meeting everyone at the scene, and I'm asking them to sign a petition for a cause that I feel strongly about, and I'm joining the march. Let me see, just to make sure that it's just here on the edge. When you do that, you just want to make sure that that you add glue to the sides, like so. Now, let's say that you want to add another figure or another flag to this scene. I'm going to show you a really cool way that you can make this scene seem a little bit more three-dimensional. And I'm going to go ahead and bring back my figures that I showed you earlier. And let's just say that I want to add this money bag right here, right? Maybe we were raising funds, or I want to add this, the American flag, for example. I'm going to go ahead and cut that figure out. Like so. Let's just say you want to use those in your scene. Let's use this flag right now. Let's say that you want to add this one, right? You're going to color it in, and it's cut out and it's ready to go. You can actually take some strips of paper like this one, and you can fold them in an accordion style. And it'll look like this. You would just need enough, a paper thick enough or big enough to hold that figure down. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that out. And then I would stick some glue on this side. Stick it to the bottom of that figure or image that I wanna add. And then, as you can see, it's in an accordion style. And then you would add some glue and stick it to your scene so it sticks out. But today I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm not gonna be using these figures. I'm actually going to add some phrases. So take a moment to think about some phrases that are associated with the cause that you feel strongly about. For example, people in this scene are advocating for democracy and liberty, and they're saying things like Viva California. So I'm gonna go ahead and add those to the scene. I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. So I'm gonna get that those extra sheets of paper that I have left over right over here, and I'm going to create these little speech bubbles. Now, if you feel confident enough to use a pen, you can go ahead and use that, or you can go ahead and use the pencil to draw that out. I'm gonna go ahead and start. So I'm gonna say, Viva, and I'm going to go ahead and draw that speech bubble. All right, and then I'm gonna say Viva democracia y libertad. Democracy and liberty. So long live California, long live democracy and liberty. All right. And once I have those in there, you can either go ahead and color them in before you cut them out. I'm gonna color them in a little bit like this. And you're gonna cut out your speech bubbles or your additional images that you wanna add. Oh, this. Sometimes I have a little bit of trouble staying on the line, so that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and cut out the second speech bubble, like so. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and get another strip of paper. I'm going to fold it in an accordion style like this. I'm gonna do it all the way. It's a pretty long strip of paper. I'm gonna do it like that. And I'm gonna use this for both of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and find my middle point, which would be right around here. I'm gonna cut it, boom. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add a dot of blue to one side. Press the accordion into that, add another dot of blue, and kind of figure out where I want this to be placed. I'm gonna place this one right over here at an angle so it looks like the crowd is saying it. And then here's my other accordion that's left over. I'm gonna add a dot of blue here, press my accordion down. I'm gonna go ahead and add this one right here. I'm gonna make it seem like this one right here is something. All right. And as you can see, they kind of stick out. So I'm gonna go ahead and angle it so you can see the figures sticking out. So you could either go ahead and lay them flat like I did these figures, or you can make them a little three-dimensional and then they'll move around to look like it's an action. All right, so here is my marching scene. And then if you want to add any additional decorations to your scene, you can go ahead and do that at the end. I'm gonna go ahead and make it seem like this is an open door. Maybe we're all heading to this town hall to meet for a meeting. We'll see. All right, and there you have it, your marching scene. I'm now going to stop sharing my screen. All right, perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and check that Q&A just to make sure that I haven't forgotten anyone or I haven't missed anyone and while I'm speaking. Let's see, any Q&A? No, awesome. All right. So now that you have finished your marching scene, I want you to think about the following question. What are some ways to bring attention to a cause you feel passionate about? I mentioned a few ways during this webinar today. One of them is by joining a march. Another one is by raising funds or fundraising or raising awareness. And you do that also through something called petitions, where you can go ahead and gather signatures and maybe declare a bill that can change some kind of law. Those are some ways. What are other ways? Go ahead and think for a minute. Go ahead and share your answers using the Q&A feature, and I'm gonna go ahead and read some of those out loud. Okay, cool. Some people are saying through protest posters. Yeah, that's another way. Oh, somebody said through juntas, assemblies, or unions. Yes, that's another way. Good. Any other ways? All right, great. These are great examples. This concludes our activity for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And stay tuned for more En Familia con la Plaza videos. ¡Hasta luego!